Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Brenslick, and it's another episode of Date Night.
Date night?
Date night.
This is a good one. I like these people.
You like all the people, though.
I know, which means we do a good job picking the people.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So today we have Danny and Richelle Knowles on. We'll tell you all about them in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about my new idea.
What's your new idea?
Thank you. I was waiting for you to ask.
I think I know where this is going.
Okay. So last week I went to, well, there's a lot of complaints in here. So first is
It should be stated that Lauren is grumpy this morning, so we're just rolling with it and making content out of it.
Not like, yeah. Okay. I was grumpy last week, though, too. And that's important for this story.
Okay.
So I had a dentist appointment. I contemplated canceling it just because I didn't feel like going. And apparently that's a pattern because I said to Kirby, like, I don't know. I have the dentist tomorrow, but I might cancel. And he's like, what? No way. And I'm like, do I do this often?
Yeah. One time, it takes like 6 months to schedule a dentist appointment, and you can reschedule a massage for like 2 days later.
No,
and
you
one
cannot.
time tried to miss a dentist appointment because you had a massage that it might coincide with.
Nay, I did cancel that dentist appointment for that massage, and our massage therapist is almost as hard to get into. That's not the point of the story, though. So I go to the dentist. I got more important shit to be doing. Not really, but I don't want to be there. And so I think I'm not going to be grumpy to them, but my plan is to just like not be talkative. So what are they called?
Hygienist?
Thank you. So the hygienist is like, how's it going this morning? I'm like, yeah, good. Okay. Like, she's like, you working today? And I'm like, thinking she's still just making small talk with me, like anything, and I'm like, yep. And she's like, when you got to be back to work? I was like, oh, and I went noon. She's like, oh. And then she asked another question where I realize she knows who I am. I'm like, damn it.
Well, they can see our clinic from the room. Could you see our clinic from the room you were in?
Yes, but this is the first time I've had this hygienist. Usually I had this other dude who was really talkative and annoying, and so I purposely switched to a different day. And so this is the first time I'd met her.
It's safe to know they all know who you are. They can see your workplace from their workplace.
So then she's like, so how are you liking the new building? And so then just like if you're a small town doc, this moment where you're like, I am not anonymous and they know who I am. And now I have to bring the energy and the charisma to this damn dental cleaning I didn't even want to be at. So like right away, I'm just like, oh, we're really loving it. And, there's energy. And so then I'm asking her questions, but then she has to start cleaning my teeth. So anyways, this isn't even my idea yet. That was just my rant.
Okay.
So she proceeds, as I think most hygienists do, this has been my entire life, to just ask me questions throughout my entire cleaning and talk about stuff like, I don't know. But the thing is their hands are in your mouth. So
we should ask Karen what training they get on that, or if they ever talk about that.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the annoying things that she said. But first, I just want to cut to the chase and tell you my idea. It's not trademarked yet. But like silent dental cleaning. So you go in. It's very quiet. They talk in like, have you had any changes in your medications? No. And then you get headphones even. And like there's like meditative music. They put black because there's also like, am I supposed to keep my eyes open or am I the weirdo for shutting my eyes? Right? Like you're like,
keep my eyes open.
You keep your eyes open and just stare at them?
Stare right at their face.
So.
No, I think I like look at the TV in the corner.
There is no TV.
There's a TV in the corner of the one I'm in.
Not the one I'm in.
They just don't like you, I think.
So you'd get like black sunglasses that are very clear of like, yeah, you don't. And then like, I thought about this on my run because I've actually put thought into this, that I'd be like, okay, well, what would happen when they need to talk to you?
Yeah, that was my question.
It would be like the airport or the airplane system where
This is your dental hygienist speaking.
No. They wouldn't have to announce
I'm going to
themselves.
need you to return your seat back to the upright and locked position.
They would have like a little headphone that automatically, probably wouldn't happen automatically because they would need to like talk to the dentist that I didn't need to hear that, but they would just like tap a thing and then their volume, like my meditation music would get quieter.
Because they're going to have their hands in your mouth.
Yeah. Foot pedal. So then the volume of my music just lowers and their voice comes in of like, hey, Lauren, so have you noticed any pain at blah, blah, blah? And I can be like, nope. And they're like, okay, great. Return to your meditation. So that's my idea. I think it's really good. And then anybody who lives in a big town who doesn't have to deal about being anonymous is just like, oh, my dentist. There is a quiet dentistry around here. Oh, and they also have a holistic dentistry and all of this stuff where you don't have to turn down fluoride all the time and blah, blah, blah.
I think you could mix it into an existing dental practice, just like with Uber. You can like set your conversation settings. Did you know that?
Oh, we should just do that for patients at the clinic. Just although we
do you want to talk
remember
about the Packers?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the weather?
Do you want the doctor to actually talk to you or do you just want to leave? We'd have to have a way of tracking it.
And you guys ask, I mean, you do a good job and you train our people not to do BS table talk anyway. Right. So like most of what you're talking about is their body and what's going on with them and what's going on with their life, which is relevant.
And the person who would say no would probably be the person who needs me to educate them on their nervous system. Otherwise, they're just leaving anyways. Okay. Exactly. So bad idea for chiropractic. Good idea for dentistry, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like what you guys are doing is basically what the dentist does. But like, yeah, a lot of the times the hygienist isn't asking you any relevant question towards your. You
know how I know I was grumpy last week? Because the intro for last week was me bitching about that guy on Instagram. But last week I had my period to blame. I am periodless now. Now I'm just a bitch. Now
you're just a grumpy lady.
I sent like an SOS to April, the Reiki lady. I was like, I need help. A demon has possessed me and I need help. Do you want to hear some of the shit she was saying?
Sure.
Yes, you do. And so do they. I know they do. Otherwise, they're fast forwarding. Okay, so it starts with her like saying something about like very like my intro about like, oh my gosh, I always have to put myself in these weird positions, like my back hurt, whatever. And she said like, well, I know a great chiropractor. And she goes, oh, I go to the chiropractor. And I was like, that's fantastic. Who do you go to? And then she tells me who. I'm not going to say because they're kind of my arch nemesis in town. I have reasons, but I'm not going to go on that soapbox. Well, yep. Okay. Anyways, so she says, and I go, and I think this is a great line. And I go, oh, how'd you select him? Good, right?
Yeah.
You're just shaking your head, not enthusiastically.
Just waiting to see where.
So anyway, she's like, oh, well, I used to go to the person who owned it before, not as regularly, but now I go. And so then she just goes like, he is always busy. And I'm just like, yeah, well, when you do half-hour appointments.
Just so angry.
So angry. And she said something about like, somehow she got to like, then she took a thing because she asked about my weekend plans. Maybe this happened before I started bitching about the guy, but she's a dental hygienist. And okay, if there's any dental hygienists who listen right now, don't get offended. But she then was asking about my weekend plans. I said we were going to continuing ed. And she goes, oh, how many hours do you guys need? And so I tell her, and she's like, oh, wow, that's a lot. We only need. And I wanted to be like, bish, wait a minute. You know that like I'm a doctor. Then she asked about her schooling. And she's like, so is that like a 2-year? I was like, nope.
Just
full 4.
She's just stepping on all your buttons without knowing that.
My God. So that had happened before she tells me that my arch nemesis is always busy. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, then she asked something about us being busy or like, she said like, are you busy? That's what my brain heard. That wasn't what she said.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah. Oh, she asked how many doctors we have now. And I was like, 17.
More than whoever you go to see. And ours are better. And they're taller. And they're funnier. Faster. They can jump higher.
At one point she asked, like, if you have like 5 to 10 minute appointments, and then she starts like trying to calculate how many people I can see in a day. And she's like, so like, do you see like 20, 30? And I was like, no, like 100. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah. So
you are hilarious.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then like the final kicker, at this point I froze because you know what I wanted to say, but then she was like, oh, and what I really love is I can just schedule my appointments online. And I was just waiting for her to be like, can you guys do that? And I wanted to be like, yeah.
Fortunately, we can. And this is a good time to talk about our friends at Sked. They have helped us streamline our practice. And Abby was just telling me the other day how many people have actually started to schedule online. And I was thinking like, whoa, how much time have our CAs saved by not having to do those conversations? And like, it's great that people still can call and schedule, which some people do. But I like that we've streamlined it enough that people can just watch the videos, read the info, and go, yep, I'll pick my time. I'll be there. And our people can focus on more important things of the people actually in front of them in the clinic and helping them out.
Okay, that was a really good pivot because that rant could have gone on for a lot longer. But yes, we are extremely happy with Sked. We love them. And we've tried out, this is actually our third different similar software, and this by far beats the previous.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to know more about Sked, click the link in the show notes. And I forget, do they have to mention She Slays, or?
I think they save money if they do.
Okay. Yeah, do that.
Greatest promotional ad ever. I'm pretty sure that
there's something, but it's a link. It's all in the link. We'll figure it out later. Natural ads.
We're great. Would you like me to promote something for you? I'm so good at it.
Well, we really use it, and I think that comes through, and I think that's a good promotion.
I do love it. If they fired me as She Slays, I would have a hard time because I would be like, but I still want your service. And now,
and when you're answering a question and you're telling people like, well, how I fixed it is this, but I don't want to talk about them anymore.
Ex-boyfriend. I think we've already realized that I have grudge issues.
Yes,
really
apparently.
I do. I don't know. I don't know if it's an Enneagram 3 or again, if I'm just a bitch.
Can't it be both?
It can be. Shout out, this week's listener highlight is a new Patreon supporter. It's Dr. Stilson at Activated Life Chiro and Wellness. I almost said Wilson because I was looking at her name and reading her thing. But and I also believe they are looking for an associate.
Ooh.
So go check out Activated Life Chiro and Wellness if you are looking for a job, because they're my new favorite this week because they support us on Patreon.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's get to our interview.
I suppose we should at some point. Got any more people you want to complain about, though, first? That was a rhetorical question.
Well, I was just continuing it this week, so like, there's probably, but you don't want me to answer. No. Fine. All right. Well, let's talk about people I like. So, Dr. Danielle Knowles developed the Mile High movement after years of experience as a successful chiropractor, consultant, mentor, and teacher. He's been running his own chiropractic practice since 1997. He also has served on the Sherman College of Chiropractic Board of Trustees, the Colorado Chiropractic Association, the Colorado Chiropractic Wellness Alliance, and the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations. That is a mouthful.
That is the cut down. And did you say Danielle?
Did I?
I think you just got into reading voice. I do that all the time.
Well, I call him Danny.
Yeah.
And you typed out Daniel.
Well, I was cutting and pasting from, this guy's done so much that his bio, like I was like, oh, we'll just grab the About Me section from like his speaker bio. But he's done so much stuff that it's like 4 pages long. So I was like, okay, what are like the best 3 sentences
Oh, I'm going to call it Danny. You should have put Danny.
Sorry,
That's what
Dr. Danny.
Dr. Danny. One day I'm going to have a 4-page long bio of just do impressive stuff. She started a mute dentistry business.
She started a podcast where she just complains about shit.
Anyways, I'll try not to mess up his wife's name. Dr. Richelle Knowles is well known as a chiropractor residents can rely on for compassionate and empathetic care at Boulder Wellness Center. You know what? It's just my mouth isn't working today.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Like words are not coming out smoothly.
It's all right. It's early.
She graduated from Sherman College of Chiropractic and has served on the Colorado Board of Chiropractic Examiners and currently is on the board of the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations. Now, the way that they got hooked into their state association is an interesting story they do get into.
Mm-hmm.
Little fun fact. The person who I bitched about last week, the Instagram person,
yep,
is from Colorado.
Oh, and on the other side of things from them, I'm assuming?
And I remember this because while I was like scouring his bio page and looking at his posts, I remember thinking, it's people like you that Danny and Richelle, like no wonder they felt like they needed to get involved in Colorado politics.
Yeah. Yeah, with people like that, I would assume.
You don't even know.
I'm just mad at them because you're mad at them, honey. I will go fight them for you.
You're so sweet. Okay, will you pray? And can we center this conversation, please?
All right. Dear God, thank you again for bringing us together. And thank you for these date nights where we get to not just have the quick conversations that happen at conferences or the quick messages on Instagram, but kind of dig in with people who are so interesting and get to know them at a deeper level. So I personally appreciate that you give me and Lauren this opportunity to grow with these people and for all the information that they give us. Please help it bless people who are listening and getting important messages like Danny and Richelle's out there. And show all the good things that they're doing in your name. Thank you, and we love you. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, without further ado, we're only 20 minutes into our intro. Good job, us.
Well, I don't think it's a full 20, like we're seeing it as 20, but I think the first 4 minutes of this recording were you procrastinating and not wanting to start and going, are you ready? You know how
we knew it was going to be bad? Is I literally asked Kirby, wait, what do I normally say to intro the podcast? I forgot. I blacked out and was like, how do I start this thing normally?
I think you found the energy and you did a decent job. Once you got your rage energy going of complaining about people, then it really found its legs.
Will you remember that for future when I am nining out, that you just got to be like, let's piss you off. Let's get you pissed.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to get you pissed.
Instead, when I nine out, Kirby's just like, yeah, good. You're like realizing.
Go rest, lay on the couch. That's a good idea sometimes.
It's not what I need. All right. Without further ado, here is our date night. I don't even know what number this is. 5, maybe 5 or 6. Fun date night. You're going to enjoy it with Dr. Danny and Dr. Richelle Knowles. Okay. So other than you two being the powerhouse that created Mile High, honestly, I don't know much about your background in chiropractic. Like, how did you guys find each other and find chiropractic?
Well, which one of us should start?
Long stories.
Long stories. Well, first of all, I found chiropractic because I had significant health challenges as a teen. My mom, was a divorced single mom, and I was ill frequently. And someone said to us, "You've got to bring this kid. You got to get this kid to a doctor." And she said, "I've been through every doctor thing, and I can't do it. And I don't want to give him medications. I don't even want to take an aspirin," was her response. Mm-hmm. So he went to a library and looked up what's a drugless healing art, and he came back and said the largest drugless healing art was chiropractic. You got to take him to her chiropractor. Mm-hmm. She never heard of one, didn't know what one was, and she did. and my health turned around very quickly. And so she decided to go to chiropractic school.
Oh,
and to NYCC.
Single mom.
Yeah.
I'm going to chiropractic school. Back then, that was probably like $5,000.
Right. Exactly.
She was going to go back to some health profession. So she prereqs, but she didn't know what she wanted to do. But she was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And she went to chiropractic school at NYCC. And she didn't know what chiropractic was. Actually, at the interview, she said, I want to, go at the interview for school. She said, I want to go into chiropractic medicine. And NYCC admission said there's no such thing as chiropractic medicine because she didn't know what she was doing.
And a diametrically opposed chiropractic.
Yeah. And so anyway, she ended up in the last quarter of school. Someone that she was dating was a Sherman grad. It said, you have to go to a Donnie seminar. Donnie Epstein is where you'll learn real chiropractic. You're not learning real chiropractic. So she went, and he happened to be speaking on campus, as often people do. And she went, said, oh, look, this is the person I'm supposed to go see. So she went to his talk, and it turned her life around. Later after that, they ended up dating, and my mom married Donnie Epstein. So
spoiler, I didn't know that. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
That is so cool.
And I was in undergrad, and there was this actually, I think it was my last year of high school or first year of undergrad, I don't remember. And they were all suddenly getting married. I was like, okay. And we went to this wedding. They were having a small wedding. And the wedding was being done by a French chiropractor. And it happened to be Arnaud Bernier, which I had no idea at that time. I was like, why is there a French chiropractor doing a wedding ceremony? I don't get this. And I'm like a New York NYU kid. I'm like, this is just weird. There's a Jewish chiropractor with a very thick Jewish New York accent, and a French chiropractor. I don't get it. So then I thought the last thing I do is become a chiropractor because all these people are weird. And I tagged along with lots of things to them. And then I went to Sherman because they said I'd never gone to anywhere. I only lived in the Bronx. I didn't go anywhere of the Disney once. I'd never left the Bronx.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn. So I went to Sherman College to visit with them just because they were going. I was like, okay, I've never been in it. Let's go. And I heard in one day, Donnie, Arnaud, Joe Donofrio Sr., Reggie Gold and Tom Gilardi in like 5 hours. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh crap, I'm going to chiropractic school after that. And then, so that's how I ended up at chiropractic school. Then Richelle ended up at Sherman. Do you want to say how you found your way to Sherman?
Sure. I have a twin brother who's a chiropractor, and he knew, like, we were twins, right? And I knew I wanted to help people, right? And go into healthcare somehow. And he wanted, at 12 years old, he's like, oh, I'm going to be a chiropractor. And we had like a distant cousin that was a chiropractor, but we didn't go to the chiropractor. We didn't know anything about it. Like, I don't think he read about it. It was just like this, God thing where he was like, I'm going to be a chiropractor. And he never veered from that. Right.
That's exactly my story too.
So much
age 12, very little experience. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Like, where did this come from? Thought bubble, right? Yeah. And so he went on to go to chiropractic school, and I went to pharmacy school. And there's a dramatic story about
I bet Thanksgiving dinners got real weird.
And but I was the same way. I was like, well, why, my mom, I was having like these really bad headaches. And the guy that sent my brother to chiropractic school, because my dad met him, and then he had a bus going to Sherman College, and he said, oh, my son wants to be a chiropractor. He had a bus going to Sherman College from Pittsburgh. His name's Dave Schmolensky. He's like our field doc. And he sent my brother when he was like a freshman in college down to Sherman, and he went to Lyceum, and it was huge. And he heard Reggie and, everybody. And he came back so excited and on fire. And here I am in pharmacy school. And he said, you have to start seeing Dave. And I had like these terrible headaches and like debilitating migraines. Got adjusted. I sat in the car, and like my hands were tingling after my first adjustment. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Like, I felt like my whole nervous system waking up. Mm-hmm. And then all these things led to me then going to visit my brother and going to Lyceum and hearing Reggie. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do my pharmacy rotations. And then off I go to chiropractic school. So it's having the chiropractic experience of what it was like to feel when, you know, you're not subluxated, and how you feel more alive, and having my twin there, and also realizing that putting pills in a bottle is not really fun. You know? So
yeah, it's funny because every time I come back from a chiropractic conference, you know, there's this Monday energy.
Yeah.
You're just like your patients, and you're just like, oh my gosh, do you like understand how cool this is? And I'll even just say something because, like, you know, some of your patients have boring jobs, they're accountants or whatever. Right. And I'll be like, do you go to like conferences and stuff? And they're like, we have like continuing education. And I'm like, do you come back like excited about like spreadsheets and stuff? And they're like, not really. And I'm like, I think chiropractic might be a little unique that way.
Just a little different,
just
right?
a little, because I'm just picturing like 500 accountants in a room, just like,
I know. I know. Like, we're so excited, you know?
So then you both end up at Sherman, and that's where you meet?
Yeah. So I was on my tour of Sherman when I went to visit my brother, and like, I wasn't guy crazy, or, you know, I was all about my career and the whole 9 yards, like girl power. And I was on the tour of Sherman, and in our health center, I was walking along the lockers, and Danny comes walking through, and the guy that's on the tour like introduces me to him. And we walk away, and I was with my mom because she was visiting my brother too. And I said to my mom, I don't know why, but I'm going to marry that guy. And my mom was like,
and your mom's like, girl, you are making too many life changes too fast.
Exactly. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I just don't know why, but I think that's who I'm going to marry. And she was like, you're crazy. And then we ended up being friends through school. We dated other people and everything like that. And then he came back one time. He had a house. He came back to sell his house, and we met at a coffee shop, and he asked me out, and the rest is history. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So did you, so where, like, did you, when you graduated, start a practice together, or how did, no, when
we, when I graduated, she still had
2 years
left.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and the relationship was pretty awesome. I said, okay, but I wanted to leave Spartanburg as soon as possible. And
back to the Bronx.
I had to decide this New York boy had to decide to stay in the South.
Right.
And she was more than worth it. So I stayed for 2 years, and I opened a practice in South Carolina. And she helped me with the practice. She helped in the practice tremendously, staff wise, and running it and learning how to practice together while she was in school. She would come between seeing patients at clinic to come to the office, and we ran the office together, and then we sold it, and we got married and moved here to Boulder. So, and actually she ended up in Boulder quicker than I
did,
because I couldn't sell the practice in time, and she set up the internship in Boulder, and I was like, I'm still here. For 2 more months.
So what made you, especially knowing that you didn't want to stay in Spartanburg, what made you decide to open a practice versus like just associate for a while?
Her?
we like didn't have any fear back then.
We didn't have any fear.
You know, like there was no like, what am I going to do? It was just like, oh yeah, we're just going to open a practice. So he started seeing people out of his basement and did box on the wall. And then it started growing. So he got a space. And then there were students that wanted to stay in the area. So they said, oh, listen. And I mean, we sold the practice for like $10,000. No,
$30,000.
Oh, okay. Or something like that, you know.
Did you say
so?
3?
We were like, 30.
Oh,
yeah.
33. Okay.
Yeah. And so we were like, you know, he had built it up really great. I mean, it was a great practice and a beautiful space and everything. And there were a couple of students that had said, hey, if you get this going, when I'm done, I'd love to just like plug in. Right. And so that's what happened.
I mean, when we graduated, no one thought of being an associate. It wasn't
a thing.
It wasn't,
yeah.
It was just,
unless you had like a parent that was a chiropractor, or, you know, your big brother was, then you'd go work with them. But it wasn't, I don't think that there was there for sure wasn't, you know, we had $100,000 in student loan debt, you know, each. So we didn't have what people have today. So. Yeah.
But when I opened, I mean, I started seeing people in my basement because people knew me from being there already. And it got to being so many people seeing me that they're all parking on the neighbors' lawns and they started to complain. So I was like, okay, I have to open an office because we're going to get shut down.
Right.
And in I didn't have a business plan. My business plan was I had $2,000 in the bank and I had posters and tables, and I had the rent was $1,000. So like, I just got to get more people to adjusted than $1,000 and I could make it. That was the whole business plan.
It was, we were like so on a shoestring, fly by the seat of our pants, but it just worked.
I mean, so I'm assuming, I don't want to assume that you're older than me, but I'm assuming you graduated before 2010.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a 2010 graduate.
96 and 99.
Okay.
Graduated.
So, you know, you said that like nobody associated. And even when I graduated in 2010, I mean, there were definitely some people who were associating.
Yeah.
But my memory, and I could be remembering it wrong, or like obviously through my own narrative, but like if you were going to associate, it was kind of like, oh, so you just need more time. Like you're just not confident enough in who you are. And that was really the like, no, I don't feel ready to start a practice yet. And like everyone else is just kind of like, oh, you're not confident yet. Okay. What, you know, and I would say 90+%, you know, like it was looked down upon, like you were lacking something that all of us had. You were going to associate.
Well, simultaneously, they didn't teach you how to run a practice or a business.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that, you know, I agree with you 100%. And I really think that with the burden of the school debt, and also like, you know, the circumstances of like the different things that have happened in the world over the last, you know, probably since 2008 until now, the world's changed so much. And I think that there's gotten to be more stuff and not as many tools of like what you really need to do to start your practice, you know, and I think it's hard. It's harder for people now than it was for us, you know, to be honest. And I think it was harder for the people, but I think people know what chiropractic is now more so than ever. So there's that. And there's also just the way the world is right now, and, you know, hard for people to get loans or even get leases or anything like that. So, and I think people see being an associate now as being part of something, right? Is that like you're practicing together
now? I feel like as chiropractors, there's all these giant practices back then too. It's not like all of a sudden now chiropractors are like, geez, I can't handle this load. I need help. Like what were chiropractors doing before? They couldn't get associates. Like, I know. I think they were working 6 and 7 hours. You know, they were selfless servants that was their whole life. You know what I mean? Which, I mean, I think that's beautiful. And I also think I've always loved the idea of a group practice. You know, like I feel like when you have a spouse, you are a group practice. So we don't like really know any different. So then when you bring somebody else on, I always see it as like we're working together. You know, like it's our practice together, not that, you know, like you're part of the practice. So I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, nobody's an island, right? So who really wants to go at it alone, you know? Right. Yeah. That's probably exactly what it was, is like back then. I'm saying before you guys, way before you, like, older chiropractors.
Yeah, we're not the older chiropractors.
Nope.
We're getting there.
change this. But no, seriously, back in like the Reggie times, it was kind of this like part of your identity of a chiropractor was this complete self-service of your personal life.
Right.
And like those wives had to be just like understanding. Hey, She Slayers. When I first started practice, I thought I needed to dress a certain way for patients to trust me, and I spent hours trying to design communication and marketing materials that worked. After 12 years of practice, here's a couple things I've learned. 1, I don't have to wear dress pants and button-ups for a patient to take me seriously. And 2, why recreate the wheel when a design professional has already done all the work for me? Well Aligned offers solutions in both of these categories. They have the coolest and most comfy chiropractic shirts that will showcase your personality, as well as beautifully designed communication and marketing tools to help drive new patients, get more referrals, and gain better retention in your practice. From the best chiropractic apparel to modern patient education materials, Well Aligned has you covered. All She Slayers get 10% off plus free shipping on orders of $75 or more with promo code SheSlays. Visit www.wellaligned.com to save. Hey, She Slayers. So many of you connect with my story as a chiropractor because I started all wrong. Years into practice, I had to completely turn it around from being an insurance and pain-based model to a thriving, subluxation-based cash practice. I have a lot of ways that happened, but I am not exaggerating when I say the number one thing I changed was adding CLA's Insight scanning technology. The Insight helped grow our practice from 300 people a week to over 500 a week in the course of 1 year, purely by showing objective findings and providing reports to patients. So many docs I talk to struggle to communicate the why behind a care plan when the patient's pain goes away in a few visits. They struggle to keep patients after insurance stops paying. They don't know how to explain why a kid benefits from chiropractic care, even though they have no symptoms. They don't do progress exams because what am I going to do to show the patient progress? I am telling you, every single thing I just said, my answer to the doc is, are you using Insight scanning technology in your clinic yet? Because it's the solution to all of those issues. If you have questions, the staff at CLA is absolutely incredible and will help answer those questions and help implement this big change into your practice. Click the link below in the show notes as She Slays listeners get preferred pricing and hundreds of dollars off their purchase. Hi friends, I wanted to take a quick break from the episode to make sure you all know about the cool stuff we have happening over on Patreon. This is a platform where I can offer you extra content, behind the scenes interviews, quick trainings, and exclusive trainings answering your exact question live, back to back with me. It's a way for me to more directly interact with you and post some fun things that would never be in the normal weekly episodes. To check out what we're doing and to sign up, click the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
And because now it is this like, well, no, you don't get to be an absent father just because you're a chiropractor.
Yeah, you also have to.
Also, I think the world was different in terms of technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you didn't have computers and social media, and that aspect of running a practice is super time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you didn't do outside the adjusting hours.
Yeah.
That you do now. Because I know I practiced before there was no email in my practice.
Yeah.
I'm that old.
Right.
Initially.
We didn't, email didn't start really.
Yeah, we didn't use it for business when we first opened.
No.
And social media was, very basic, like, oh, we got a Facebook page and we do it if we're going to be closed, like, or it's Memorial Day.
Right.
But then that became a whole nother depth or time infringement on running any business that, so then there's gifts of that, like us doing this right now, and things that are, challenges in terms of time. So they can also free up time as well. So things shift.
I was speaking to a student group a couple months ago, and
they asked me to come talk about social media. A lot of times I get asked to talk about social media. And it's funny, like I'm much more comfortable talking to a group of 30 plus year olds talking about social media. And so I'm like, okay, what the heck do I talk to a 22-year-old about social media that they don't know? And so I actually, okay, well, I can't tell you what TikTok and Reels are. So I actually had to give like an anti-social media talk to them of like,
interesting.
I feel like so often a new graduate relies so much on social media
just
that
like, I'll get TikTok famous and then people will come in.
Yeah,
exactly. We hear it all the time.
I
want to be an influencer. I don't want to be a chiropractor even, and you're just like, oh, really? That's not my reality.
Yeah. And so it's like, I have to be like, okay, yes, it is a great tool. I would have loved to have had it, but it also just kind of, I think it can be so easily a time suck that it's like, no, you need to go out. Like you need to physically interact IRL.
And 10,000 likes from across the country doesn't bring 10,000 people in your door in the one town that you do exist in.
Exactly.
So how did you guys, so you moved out to Boulder. How did you guys build your practice up? Like, was it gangbusters from the start or was it a slow roll or?
Well, we were married and looking for a place. And remember, we just sold a practice. We'd worked for 2 years. She had just graduated. And we're like, okay, we got to find a place to live and we got to find a practice. And we were kind of a little bit casual because we were like, we needed to rest for a little, take a pause. And we were literally living in my parents' basement. Because seriously,
nothing more of a motivator to grow your business than
it was big.
And they traveled a lot. They traveled a lot at that time. So we actually had this huge house to ourselves the majority of the time, which was kind of nice. And we were enjoying Colorado for a couple months. And then we found out that, I don't know how this happened, but she was pregnant. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
I cannot.
We're 5 months into being married, and we're like, we're going to pay our student loans off. We're going to travel. We got this.
And we're like, oh, we're living in my parents' basement, and my wife is pregnant. I was like, that doesn't work. We have to find an office and get a CA, and we have 9 months to do it. And like have enough patience to pay a CA and the office and pay for a place to live. So like I had like. So it was a huge motivator. I was like, in fact, I didn't stop the motivator for years because I was like, I have to make this happen because my like male drive was like, okay, this is how much money we have to have. It was like, just pedal to the metal and make it happen. And actually it worked out because we had a place to live within a couple of months and we had our first CA the Monday after our son was born. So and we worked our tails off.
Yes, very much.
We worked our tails off.
So Richelle, did you start? So okay, did you start adjusting like pretty much right away?
While pregnant, and then
I adjusted until our last day was a Thursday, and Friday because we did different hours then, and then I had my son on Saturday.
Okay. How much time did you take off for maternity?
I took off 8 weeks, I think, for maternity leave. And then I came back like a shift, like I'd come back a shift and then the next week I'd come back 2 shifts. So, but we've always practiced as one chiropractor. Like we don't practice together. So
we're never in the office together.
We're never in the office together. Okay. So we,
other than COVID, when we had to be.
Yeah, and COVID.
It was the first time in 20 years we practiced together.
Yeah, there were times over the years. There was like a 6 months thing because of staffing or something like that. But we always practiced like he was there in the mornings and I was there in the afternoons. And then we had a team. But we're never in the office together. We see each other on weekends. So
that's crazy. So when you did have to work together during COVID, was that weird? Was there tension there? Was it like No, that's my
No,
The activator over.
I know. No, we had fun. We adjusted together, and we had always thought we would do that, but
That's what we thought we would do from the beginning.
Right.
It didn't happen.
Right. So we had a lot. It was fun. I mean, that was a stressful time for everybody for sure. And the kids, our kids were older, so we were able to be going, and we'd come home and they'd have dinner. Like they were, 17 and 21. So, but yeah, no, it was fun. But I'm also glad the way we structured our life. Like I love how we structured our life because we got to be with our kids and we had a lot of flexibility, and or work on their projects, like the other things that we do when we're not in the office. So,
but we started out with the fact that we both want to raise our kids. I didn't want to just be in the office and not see the kids, and she didn't want to see the kids and not practice.
Yeah.
So like we when she was adjusting, I was with the kids. When I was adjusting, she was with the kids. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So
oh no, I was just going to ask.
Oh,
as you guys built the practice up, so you're dividing the time. Do you have like different business skill sets too that you like co-manage things, or do you just do everything kind of as a team?
how would you answer that?
I think Danny does more of the business stuff, and I did more of the family stuff. Like I love you, and I don't say this in a negative way. He's never been to a parent teacher conference, right? But I've also never done payroll. So that's kind of the deal. But I mean, we both did talks, and we both did screenings, and we both taught seminars and all those types of things. But we kind of like said, all right, you're going to do this, or whoever. It was like just the natural flow of what would happen. So
yeah. It was, we went a little bit more into conventional roles that she more ran the household and I more ran the office, and I did things at home, but under her direction, and vice versa.
Well, what I love though is because, and this is no judgment to anybody, any chiropractic couples who do it this way, but Richelle, you said like, when I'm at the office, I want to be adjusting. I want to be doing chiropractic. And what I've seen with other chiropractic couples is kids come in. Yes, the mom takes that traditional, like, I take care of the kids. But then what ends up happening is their role in the office is that front desk role.
Yeah.
And then the husband goes like, I will do all the adjusting. And so I kind of like the way that you divided the office of like, I don't want, when I'm there, I don't want to be a really great office manager. I want to be there that way. So like,
well, I don't know if I'd be a really great office manager. I'm a lot better at adjusting. So, and that's my
talents.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I think everybody has a different way to do things. I don't necessarily know that our way is the right way, but it really worked for us. And, we've done a ton of stuff. So I would say like, I'm working in the office now more than Danny is, so the roles have like shifted a little bit, but so, we don't have kids at home. We just have fur babies to take care of now.
So you're officially empty nesters.
Yes.
See, there's the benefit of getting pregnant faster than you thought.
There you go. You're,
really young, you got time.
You're in your 40s and everybody's gone, right? So,
yeah, we'll be empty nesters at 48, which is crazy.
That's how old I am. And let me just tell you, you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Oh,
right?
yeah, what do you like?
You should be concerned.
Oh, yeah.
You should legit be worried. Like, I'm going to start a cruise line or something because
I know.
What to do.
I know. We're kind of just in that place of like,
what do we do?
What do we do now? And I want to have
because we also had to rebuild during COVID. It didn't happen for us at a typical time. It happened while our office had some reorganizing it had to do.
And we, we're also in this time in our life where we're like restructuring our life, right? Like we're figuring out like, okay, so just because we've done this for so long, the way that we've done it, does that mean that that's how we want to continue to do it? So we're taking like the last part of this year to like really like redefine our life and figure out what's next.
Wow.
So
that's
an exciting time. It's a scary time. It's exciting.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I mean, looking at your bios, you are both very involved politically, and like, when did you decide that this clinic is not enough impact?
Right.
Well, I can tell you about that. Number one, we were seeing around 700 people a week. And I had a day that I was sitting marking x-rays. And each year we had grown roughly 100 people a week
Mhm.
while our kids were growing. And to be, very few people in a network office ever do that, doing network.
Yeah.
Very few. In fact, I don't know if anybody other than Donnie has.
Yeah. Maybe Sophia.
Mhm. Rodriguez. So, and I was sitting there marking x-rays. So, okay. In my mind, I'm thinking, my mind's always rolling of like, what's the next promotion or what's the next thing or growth as I'm looking at patient files and doing that. I said, okay, so we do this and then we get to 770 next year. And I remember it distinctly because I didn't feel excited about it. Like, I was like, that does not thrill me. And it was scary. I felt like, wow, why does that not thrill me? Because it was like who I am, it was like, which is not a healthy thing, and I was like, why do I feel this way? And I sat with that for a good while. And then randomly, unexpectedly, I got a phone call from the then president, John Schwartzbauer of Sherman College. And I had not been back to Sherman College since we graduated or done to any chiropractic event, period.
Other than network
And teaching technique, because I was involved with that. I hadn't gone to anything other than that till that phone call. And he called me because he was in school. Dr. John Schwartzbauer was in school with me at the time, and I had been very involved politically on campus. Okay. And then when we got married, I said, I'm all about Richelle and the kids. And I got this phone call. He asked me to be on the board of trustees. And I was like, huh? Like, what? Yeah. What do you why? And I went back and I said, well, I feel like there's a reason I'm getting this phone call. And is that something you say no to? And we talked it over, and I said, there's a reason this is happening, and I've got to do, it's a calling, literally. Yeah. So, and I went to the first Sherman Lyceum I had been to since I graduated. And someone handed me, and I might offend some people, I don't know. Someone handed me an NCMIC brochure, NCMIC. Okay. Like the Sherman package or Lyceum had a big label of NCMIC, and I almost threw up. I was like, why is this company sponsoring Sherman Lyceum? And what I saw overall was how far things were from where Sherman was supposed to be. And at the first meeting, I didn't know anybody else in the room. And I'm like on Facebook looking up these people's names. And I'm like, because they're talking about, the school lost $1 million last year, but it was a planned $1 million. We might have to close. We're going to do a teach out and like all these contingency plans, or we merge with another school. And I was like, this can't happen. This is like everything about chiropractic lives here. Yeah. And I'm like looking up the people that are on there, and I'm like, I don't know any of them. And there's this guy, Liam. I was like, he looks like maybe he knows what he's talking about. And I'm messaging, he's like, what is this about? And I'm like, texting him, like, how can this be happening? Like under the table. He's like, it's a disaster. We got to turn it around. And like, so, we masterminded turning Sherman around. And then
Schubel?
Liam Schubel.
I'm like, I don't know of any other Liams.
Liam Schubel. And like I sat down, I was like, we can't let this happen. And so we masterminded that happening. And then right at that time, I had many board issues with Colorado because I did network, and they were kind of always had me as a target. And I fought those things politically in the state. Like the state wanted us to they wanted to make the inside subluxation station illegal for practitioners to use.
Wow.
And I fought that. Yeah. And like I fought like things over and over with the state board. So people knew me through that and through school. So then like randomly, Richelle gets a phone call. Do you want to apply to be on the Colorado State Board? And we're like, do you know who like my dad is? Like, are you serious? But she at that time we had fought this battle that Colorado had kept trying to expand scope into pharmaceuticals. And I had fought that. And then,
we're like in the heart of all those things. So we went from like not really doing a whole lot to like being like propelled into doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Why do you think so? Like, if you were kind of a pain in their side over these years, why do you think they invited you on?
Because I actually think that that there was the want for a woman to be on the board, and also somebody who did have our perspective, like a wellness, more of a mindset. So, but honestly, through that experience, there were a lot of bridges that were built, and it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but just because it's really challenging, but also in the same breath, like it makes you like even more inspired to make a difference in the profession. And, out of both of these experiences sprung up Mile High, because we wanted to have a place where like, what people subluxation centered, principled chiropractor, like whatever you want to say, like, our style of chiropractic, right? That we wanted to have a place where students could come and hear that docs could come and like reignite themselves. And so that's really what was, the seed that planted Mile High was our experiences with those sports. So,
and then, I mean, because Mile High, what year was it this last year? When did you start it?
10th year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So your kids were at home. So all of a sudden so how did you, like, when you added in both of you, right? Okay, hold on. Do you know your Enneagram types?
Yes, I'm a 2.
Okay. Wing 3.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the number, but
you're the performer.
But I don't know what number
3.
it is.
Yeah.
I figured a 3 or an 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both go and do these things. How did you and a lot of times I feel like within our relationship, there was no like formal sit down of like, this is how we're going to prioritize our marriage first, our children, but how did you have to set boundaries? Like, how did you really make sure that your relationship with each other and your family stayed at the core while you're both building massive careers?
Yeah. I'm going to be really honest.
I was going to say, or did it?
I mean, let's be real, right? Because like that's who I am, and it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't easy whatsoever, and we didn't have a plan. Just kind of like we didn't really have a plan when we started our office, which is not what we tell people to do, right? We just kind of like went by faith and like just barreled through. Right. And so, and we've made mistakes. Right. And also there's times that I'm like, oh, I wish we would have had more boundaries. I wish we would have said no more. I wish we did things differently. But I also feel like we were led to do a lot of what we did, and we did the best that we could. And because of the way we practiced, like, there was always one of us like with our kids, and that's part of our like redeveloping and redesigning our life is like, okay, we've put so much and we've given so much, and I don't regret a minute of it, and then also like in this season of my life, like I want to like have more play and more fun. And like, I almost feel like I did it, that kind of vibe, like, okay, been there, done that. And I still want to do that. And like, I want to do it smarter. Yeah. That it's not just sheer like grunt work and that you're just always serving and always giving. I love that. And I'm like, and that's not necessarily sustainable. So for the people out there that want to do these things, like learn from like our mistakes. And I'm also very grateful. So.
Yeah, I can relate a lot. I mean, much of the stuff we're going through feels like it's just sheer will and work.
Go. Just go. And it's hard. at Mile High, I was in a panel in the side room, and
which was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it was great. It was standing room only. It was fun. Oh my
Yeah.
God, those women are amazing. Like
Amazing.
seriously, you had incredible. I mean, you had incredible males too, but like women were just so great. So we're there, and I'm there with Nona and Courtney and Elise. And I feel like, and so people write into the show, to my podcast too. And so what I feel like I get a lot, and we got a question there, is from the new graduates or about to be graduates. And they're so focused on the balance, which is fantastic, right? But I don't know how to answer. Nona, thank God, because I just, when they asked the question, just completely froze and gave because they wanted to know, how do you kind of skip the hustle and
how do I succeed with?
That's a new generational thing. We hear it over and over again.
Our son's 22 and he's starting to work, and he's like, I don't want to do the, I want to have life-work balance. That's their whole, the cultural story right now for that is life-work balance. And I love that. And I think that's great. And I'm trying to learn that. But
at 48, you're like, okay, well, now that I have kids, maybe I can do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that there's a way to do it. And then I also think that the reality is when you're an entrepreneur, there's a level of grinding. We're not working 9-to-5 jobs where we punch in and punch out. You just aren't,
There was a book that a presenter and had this book called it was years ago. And he said his thing was the anti-work-life balance. And I don't fully agree with what he said, but he said it's really a zigzag. And he said the book was called The Zigzag. And he said that really as an entrepreneur, he's a outside of chiropractic, he was a multi-millionaire, multiple business thing. And he talked about it's more like a zigzag, like you're skiing down fast and then you're on vacation. Then you go, and it was like, it's the full tilt and then pause and then full tilt and then pause. That was what he thought happened.
Yeah. And
so actually we kind of, what?
Oh, sorry, Paul. No, keep going.
No. So we did Mile High. We had mapped out when to do that. We actually did it because we felt like we had to change Colorado. It was going in a bad direction, and nobody was paying attention to the politics. So I thought this would be a way to do that.
And meanwhile, Richelle's on the board, right?
Yeah, it was after I was on the board.
It was after on the board we started it. Yeah, because what happened was they wanted to put injectables into the chiropractic scope here. And I called and emailed every freaking chiropractor I knew to testify against it, and only one showed up.
There were two, actually.
Two?
Yeah.
And I was, but still, against it. And I was heartbroken because I was like, I did all this energy and no one showed up. I said, apathetic chiropractors. So I started Mile High because I wanted to bring people together so people would know what was going on and be engaged and find all the passionate, vitalistic chiropractors in the center of the country come out of the woodwork, and it worked. However, we tried when we do it, we wanted to do it in August because that seemed like relative to the chiropractic calendar, that was like a spot where it would fit. But then that affected our summers with our kids straight out. It affected because it took me the July and August when they were off. It took all my attention for July and August. So the reason why I did it in June was because I wanted to do it in June and be done so I could really be as present with my family and kids before they had their last summer home, which was great because we had a lot more time together this past summer. And that's why we moved it to September so that I could, we really had a great summer with them because we paused on everything. Yeah. I kept telling people I'm not doing anything. Even this, I said, I'm not doing this until after the summer.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, I don't know how you guys feel, but I do think that this generation is actually going to reject some of the things that our generation did, like the obsession with social media. I know it doesn't seem like that because they're in it now, But a lot of the things that I've read and podcasts that I've listened to are that they don't want to work as hard as we did.
Yeah.
And that they don't want to be as social media as obsessed as we got. So that at some point they're going to want to have more connection with people, and they're going to want to have free time, and they're going to value that, right? Like they're going to value that more than we were just like, get on the treadmill, you know?
Go.
So I love that about them, you know, like, some of me goes, well, how real is, we've had people apply to be associates with us that say, well, I want to work 9 hours a week. And I'm like,
I want to pay you for 9 hours.
I know. I'm going,
you have $300,000 of debt.
Exactly. But maybe they will bring balance to the force. So that's what, I think that I'm excited to see what happens. Like I feel like there's like this shift of like values of like, okay, I don't have to hustle. And I think there needs to be a new word for finding that, but like realizing like, you can't be over here. There's somewhere in the middle that's a healthy, so.
Well, I worry, I'm definitely more of the like, you hustle, you do this, because I'm going to be 36 in a couple weeks. But so I just go like, it's not practical though. Like you have this much debt, and like, I hope that they have a better answer, but like, I'm like, okay, you have this much debt. I love that you're going to live within your means, and that, like, you're like, I don't need to buy a house. Like, you're like, oh, okay, cool. That's fantastic. You're right. You don't need to buy a house, and you don't need to live big. But then I'm like, but are you saving for retirement? Like,
I know.
Like, what's going to happen if you like just live within your means until you're 60? Is that like the plan?
I mean, if they have if you can balance it out and you build, a financially small life, I guess you can, but that's always been my concern, especially for all chiropractors, because almost all of you start so deep in the hole to start that you do have a house. You do, maybe you're not going to buy a house, but you're walking out of school with a very nice house worth of student debt
that you can't sell back.
Yes, you already have a house, right?
And if you have an office, you have a second house.
Yeah.
And then if you want a house, that's a third house.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it is like, I agree completely that I honor and respect the shit out of this next generation. I think they're going to do some very cool things, breaking some of this, like, all the obsessions, and connect stronghold to like, what is success?
Yes.
But I just sit here as this like old curmudgeon being like, how's this going to work out for you? Like, concerned.
Like, I worked my butt off, right? Yeah.
And they're just like, listen, old lady, like, I know that you don't see any other way than what you did, but watch. And I'm like, okay, I'm watching, but I'm concerned. But
I know. I also think there's an idealism that happens too. And like, you're talking like, well, I don't want to have a house, right? Well, then when you have kids, and you want a backyard, that really changes, right? Like, it would be really good to have a fenced in yard that we can let our dogs out, like those types of things. It starts to change. So,
awesome. Well, okay. So Mile High is next September. You guys are going to spend this final quarter of 2022 figuring out what's next for you.
Yes.
Like, any ideas? What is next?
Do you want to start?
You can start.
Reorganizing. I mean, we teach network. We organize that around the world. We run lifetime wellness practice, helping people be successful in practice. In a tonal model, people that want to practice in a tonal, growing lifetime practice members model. And then also we run an office and Mile High. So that's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm still on the Sherman
And she's board. On the Sherman board.
Yeah.
So really the thing is shifting more and more of mentoring, teaching, writing, and helping others thrive. We really feel extremely gifted to have been mentored by some of the best in chiropractic while we were at Sherman, and learn a lot and be around some pretty amazing people. and we want to give what we know to others. And so finding ways to us have more space to do that. We have a phenomenal team in our office. We used to have a phenomenal team, like beyond, and then we didn't for a little bit because they all left during COVID, and then we do now again. So now we have space that we want to emulate that and help. We want to help others thrive as chiropractors that are focused on enhancing spinal neural integrity, on the adjustment, and having a successful life. Not just a successful practice,
right?
And being able to see chiropractic expand when we want to do it more from an overseeing point of view, and sharing our wisdom, then and helping emulate that for other people, and have more people on more tables more often, and help chiropractors give more and serve more.
Well,
And
it doesn't sound
receive
like a small thing.
No, it's fun though. I recently went to a League of Chiropractic Women retreat, and we were doing these like circles of like, who do you want to influence and what do you want to do? And everybody around me was talking about like their practice members, right? Like, I wanted to do talks in the community. I want to do this. And when I looked down at mine was how I wanted to impact helping other chiropractors. And I started to realize like, wow, like that's like where my calling is right now. And I absolutely love it. And I still want to adjust people because I can't imagine not going to the office, but like we're starting to kind of find that balance of how to do those things. And I think, we were just talking about the life work balance. I think it's really work hard, play hard, right? Like setting our schedules up and our life up. That's why I love like the 4-day work week, because I feel like you compress when you have a practice, you compress it into these 4 days. And then on the weekends, like the 3-day weekend is a long weekend.
Yeah.
We always say like by Saturday night, we're like, our team just had like these days off. Like I'm ready to go back to the office, and we're like traveling and teaching and doing all this stuff. I'm like, wow, if you have all these days off, like 3 days off, this is pretty incredible. So I think there's some truth to that. We
have an incredible practice. I'm really proud of our practice. Of all the things I'm proud of most is our practice. More than Mile High and more than Lifetime Wellness is that we have this incredible community, and our systems are phenomenal. And it creates people that want to be there for the right reasons, that are not symptom focused and are in the upward spiral, their health moving upwards. And I want to help people be able to thrive in that
and replicate that
and know how to communicate that. So that more people get true chiropractic care. And so it's more about taking what we learned to help other people do that. And I would say that.
Awesome. We will make sure that we have links because Mile High, I'm assuming you can buy tickets, or are you in this like weird, you can't buy tickets yet?
No, you can. RiseUpToMileHigh.com.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
People,
So we'll make sure.
you want to be, there's nowhere else you want to be than a Mile High in September 2023.
It is a fantastic group of people. All my friends are there. So I'm like, I get and see all my friends.
Yeah. And such a cool location. We were saying next year we want to go a couple days early or stay a couple days late, because like we didn't go hiking, we didn't drive over Red Rocks.
I tell people that every year.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
You've got it. Colorado is freaking beautiful. It's not like going to a hotel in New Jersey. Like it's
No offense to the people.
No offense.
No offense, New Jersey, but we're
I'm from New York, New Jersey. I get it.
I know, but there's so much natural beauty, and there's so many cool things to do here. So, and September is an awesome time because the aspens are turning up in the mountains, and it's just even going for a drive up there is incredible. Rent some e-bikes on the Vail Pass, all the good things.
Have a nice little peek of it. So, all right. Well, we will make sure we have the links below so that people can find you. Go listen to the Mile High podcast. You just had one of our favorite people on, Dr. Mo.
Yes.
Which I was messaging with Tamara. Like they're in London. So like I'm relieving the veil of that you're supposed to pretend we just recorded this, but like as the day we're recording, the Queen died yesterday. They're in London. And I'm like, holy shit, you guys, you got to get out of there. It's going to be crazy.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I love them.
Oh,
they're two of my favorite people in chiropractic.
How we started this date night thing with them. They were the first couple.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, we should be talking to more couples.
Yep, episode 100.
All right, so here's a game plan.
Yeah.
We have to have date night, and
Date-
moment time like all together.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
live in person.
Yeah. And we went to dinner with them when we were at
Okay.
Mile High, so it'd be perfect to just add to it.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, She Slayers, hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. And we'll have the links below. And until next week, bye.